everyone, and welcome back to another TFT Masterclass. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 mistakes that I have been witnessing players make within their ranked games, or even just TFT in general. So I'm UpsideMax. Thank you for everyone who have supported the channel so far. We've grown from about 5 to 60 subs, so I love to see it. Thank you so much, and there will be more helpful videos to come. Okay, so here are the 5 mistakes that players have been making on the current patch. It's going to be talking about itemization, line decision, overrolling on anomaly round, leveling too early, and then also just playing one comp. I'll talk about this one at the end. If you're a casual player, this will not apply to you. This is just only if you're looking to improve and rank up the NA ladder or any ladder of your region. Make sure you ask any questions that you have in the comments, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Okay, so the first one, itemization. This is a rather complicated concept. However, I'll try to break it down here. First off, for itemization, you really want to be slamming flexible items early game, and this will help you either just win streak, win rounds, and in turn save HP. So there are a couple very good early game items that are also very flexible and will allow you to play multiple lines and help you in the early game. So these include Static Shiv, Sunfire Cape with the recent buff giving you more % max HP is extremely good and just makes Sunfire a very good item. Also, there's not as many Morello holders as the set compared to previous. Rageblade is also very good. In the early game fights, the rounds draw out rather long because there is very little high damage burst and is rather just consistent DPS, which allows the Rageblade to stack up. Same kind of concept with Archangels, especially if you have this on a Lux, being able to shield an insane amount and then essentially one-shot any unit from her next auto attack is extremely good. And then Guardbreaker is just a very good item, also very flexible, and is bis on, I would say it's 2, almost 3 of the best like 4 cost carries currently. It's going to be Silco, Zoe, and then it is also good on Corki as a 3rd item after Last Whisper and IE. So definitely make sure you are slamming these sort of items early game on stage 2 to help you with your early stage 2 combats. The next thing we're going to talk about is the rule of 3 components. So usually by 2-1 you will have 3 components here, and this means that you're able to slam 2 of them to make an item, and then this means you'll be playing around the third component. So a couple of questions you need to ask yourself is the first one, which component of the 3 is most valuable? So this really essentially means which one do you want to wait for Carousel to finish off into a very good item. So for example, let's take a look at this scenario, right? We have a belt, we have a tier, and we have a rod. Just based off this Exalted Adventure, it is both the Zeri and the Vander, which means we are going to be playing the Watcher Sniper Zeri reroll. So this means since we are looking to really itemize that Zeri, we really want a Rageblade. So this is going to be half Rageblade from the rod, which means this is going to be our most valuable component, and we are going to be looking for a bow to finish this off. So this component of the 3 is most valuable because we definitely want bis on our main carry. And then the second thing you need to ask yourself is, are you happy slamming the other 2 components? So if we've identified that this is our most important item component so far, we want this to finish off into one of our bis components for one of our core carries, are we happy slamming the other 2 components? So in this case, this makes Redemption. It's a very good frontline item, and it's just like a good frontline item, especially in this composition. So yes, we are happy. And then can we make any items? Yes, we can. Sometimes you really can't make any items. For example, if you're playing like a full AP board and you have like, I don't know, an even shroud and then a glove, and the glove doesn't make anything, actually you can make Guardbreaker there. But let's say you really cannot make any items, then you can just sit and then wait for the next time you'll be getting items either from a Carousel or from a Krugs, Wolves, Raptors, etc. The last thing to note is you really shouldn't be greeting too hard. I see a couple players do this where they're just like, oh, I've done the stats research. These are the only 3 items that I will be looking to build. And yeah, sometimes that is the case, especially if it is for reroll. However, if you're just playing rather tempo, you really shouldn't be greeting too hard for super bis, and you should be okay slamming these flexible early game items to help you through your early game. So that's a quick intro into itemization. We're going to move on to an example now. So you'll always see these like rule of 3 components. That's because 3 components come up all the time. So let's identify real quick what we're playing, right? Okay, we have Living Forge, we have an Aurelia 2 with our Anima Visage. We also have potentially 2, or we do have 2 Sentinel. So ideally we want to pair this tank item with another tank item. So this gives us a couple decisions here. Remember, the 2 main questions you need to ask yourself is which component of the 3 is the most valuable, and then also, are you happy slamming the other 2 components? Okay, so we have a bow, we have a belt, and we have a cloak. So this means we essentially have like 2 defensive components and then 1 offensive component, the bow. Because we have an Anima Visage, we're actually going to be playing into either Garen, most likely Alawi. So Alawi can either be the Heimer Sentinels or it could be the Rebels. As we don't have a single tier, we are most likely going into the Rebel line. So with this in mind, we can either play around the belt or the cloak. So let's say we do that. This one means that the belt will either go into a Warmogs and a Sunfire. So let's say we choose, this is just hypothetical, we choose the belt to be the most valuable component, the MVC. Are we happy slamming the other 2 items? Rudons? No, we are not. Like, it's fine if we have like an Ezreal and we're super tempo, but we don't have any AD backline, so we are not going to be looking to play around the belt. This doesn't mean that Warmogs and Sunfire are bad items. It just means that the 3rd item, you're not happy slamming the other 2 components. So let's say we play around the cloak then. Are we happy making, or are we happy looking for a Declaw, a Gargoyles, or a Spark? And also, are our other 2 components a reasonable slam? So this would be Nashers. It's like, okay, Nashers is fine on Zoe, right? And we even have a holder for it, the Morgana in the backline. We're sitting on Morgana pair. We have 2 Sentinel. We have a lot of frontline for the dot to take place. So this actually looks quite reasonable. The reason why I didn't choose the last option here, right, is because we are not going to be playing, or we are not going to be slamming an Even Shroud and then playing around the bow. Now, bow is a very, very good component in the Rebels, right? It is half Shiv. It is also half Rage Blade, which is going to be Zoe's Biss. However, we will not be making Even Shroud early into this game. The cloak and the belt can go into much more valuable components. So in this case, we will be ruling out this 3rd option. Perhaps if he had an Ezreal, this would be more acceptable, but in this case, we just don't have any AD damage, and the Sunder that comes along with the Even Shroud will not be useful until at least like mid-stage 3, like stage 4, especially once you get a Jinx. So this is how you want to go about your 2-1 reeling. In this case, I make the Nashers and then I play around the cloak on 2-5. You could scout around, see it's like, okay, is it an AP heavy lobby? Okay, we'll make the Declaw if you can. If it's like heavily AD, then you could go into the Gargoyle, and then like worst case scenario, you can make a Spark, which is okay, but really you prefer to have a pure tank item to pair along with this Anima Visage. So this is the sort of procedure you want to go about when deciding your itemization. Really, the main thing to note is just these 2 questions. Which one is the most valuable and what do you want to be playing around? And then, are you happy slamming the other 2 components? So that's going to be the first mistake that I see a lot of players make. Hopefully that'll help you out. The next one is going to be choosing the wrong line. So currently on the patch 14.24b, there are actually a lot of playable level 8 comps and reroll comps. The meta is rather flexible. It's not just like 4 players choosing the exact same comp in each game. So this is pretty good. This means there are a lot of lines, and it is pretty important to choose the correct line. So why is this important? Well, because of contesting. With the new released bag size changes, it is extremely tough to contest anything past or including and past 2 cost reroll. So like 1 cost reroll is still fine. It is a little bit suspicious, but definitely not 2 cost reroll, definitely not 3 cost reroll, and then 4 cost is okay because you only need 3 copies of each 4 cost. So when contesting your comp, when playing a comp, if you have a really great spot for the comp and you see someone else trying to contest you, that is the case scenario where it is fine, just because of how great your spot is. And vice versa. If you see someone else has a much better spot than you, then you should definitely pivot off. This doesn't mean you have to sell all the units. You can still play this for your early and mid game. However, you should be looking to level and tempo and then play around some either level 8 board or just pivot into a different composition. You really want to be playing off the variables that you cannot control. So the items are going to be the largest variable that you can't control, right? From your stage 1 drops, from your krug drops, you can't really influence which items come. So you want to take a look at these items and then try to determine a line to pursue from that, whether it be AP or whether it be AD. So let's take a look at a couple components here. Let's say you get dropped many tears and rods, you're looking to play AP. You get dropped many swords, you're looking to play AD. And then here are our flexible components. So bow and gloves, it is a slight lean into the AD line, but it can still be very flex, right? Bow into like red buff, into rage blade for Zoe, into Shiv, these like, even GS is fine. And then glove like JG, guard breaker for the AP line. And then you have your last whisper, IE, not even shroud, Quicksilver and Hodge for the AD line as well. And then the very last one is tank items. Tank items are very flex, so don't worry about too much about those. The main thing to note is going to be tears and rods or swords. A couple other things that will also influence which comp you play early will be your early unit holds and your unit drops from stage 1, and also your 2-1 augments, which will influence you whether or not you can reroll, whether or not you have a strong start and can try to like win streak stage 2 and 2 tempo into level 8. These are both factors as well. So for example, right, if we get dropped like a tier and a rod, maybe we even get a reroll augment and we have a Renata, well then this will be like a clear indication like this is going to be the right line. If someone else is also trying to play run on from here and then they see your spot, they will most likely pivot off because they have you have a much better spot than them, and if not, then you will actually just be able to bully them off of the line and hit your units before they can, and then they'll most likely bot 4. Okay, so here's an example here about choosing a particular line. So don't worry too much about the augment here. Is just like 8 gold. Let's take a look at our components, right? So we have a tier, we have a bow, and we have a glove. So even combining the previous thing we talked about, itemization, let's take a look at the most important component. It's either going to be the bow or the tier that we want to be playing, or just going to be like really deciding about. Technically, in this case, we're going to be playing around the glove. Doesn't mean that the glove is the most important. It just means that these 2 slams are much more ideal than the other slams, which is going to be Hodge, we're not making, and also Last Whisper, which we're not making. Alright, so tier suggests that we should lean into the AP line. We have a 2-star Zyre, we have 2 Sork, and we could potentially level for 2 Sentinel as well. And this doesn't mean this is an insane start, but it's good. You normally win probably around 2 to 3 out of your 5 rounds with this opener. Remember, it's also silver, so this means that the other players don't have as insane as a start as well. And also, if we slam the Shiv, then our spot will be pretty good, especially if we natural some upgrades. So let's take a look at the AP lines then, at least for the level 8 comps. There are a couple of reroll ones, but I won't be going into those. Let's say we're looking to play around Silco, right? Best in slot Silco is going to be Shojin plus Nashers plus 1. So if we slam the Shiv early, we kill both of these components for the Shojin and the Nashers. It's going to be very strong for you early. However, you're not guaranteed bis into the Silco line. Now let's take a look at the Heimerdinger AP line, right? So Heimerdinger best in slot is going to be blue buff, and you can either go Archangel plus like Gunblade, or you could go Guardbreaker plus JG. But if we slam the tier, then you're not guaranteed bis as well. And then the very last AP level 8 line is going to be Rebels. So let's say we make the Shiv. This means that we can now play around the glove. This will give us stage 2 tempo, and then Shiv is a good item on Zoe as well. So in this case, this is how you kind of decide like, okay, I don't have a Shojin, I don't have, well, you can't have a blue buff like naturally. Sometimes you get a augment that will allow you to get this, so like component buffet, etc. So in this case, we're like, okay, we are angling Rebels here with Shiv. Doesn't mean that we can't play the other 2. However, it's just the other 2 are not guaranteed to get the bis because we are making this tier early game. Okay, so moving on to the next one here is going to be talking about the Anomaly stage. So overrolling on Anomaly is very, very common, especially after the recent change of the first 12 Anomaly options not repeating. However, your 13th option can now repeat. So what does this mean is you really want to aim to take an acceptable / good anomaly within your first 12 options. And normally within each composition, there are at least like two, unless you're rerolling very specifically, let's say like violets, there are at least like two units that you can anomalize, normally a frontline unit and a backline unit. So a couple of the very strong like generic anomalies, if you are having a range to damage carry, comeback story is extremely good on them unless they already have a lot of damage amp, for example on a sniper. For tank, essentially any of the tank anomalies are quite good, but a couple of the really good ones are like giant size, deep roots, stone skin, of course depending on how well they scale with like HP or if they already have a lot of resistances. And then the last one for like melee damage, invisibility is very good along with call of the week. So these are just some generic ones to keep in mind. If you want to see the full list, this will be a different video. As I mentioned, most comps have a couple types of units that you can anomalize optimally. However, at least for this set and currently on this patch, a lot of the level 8 compositions are stall comps. So if you think about like Heimerdinger, right, the more times he casts, the stronger he gets because he will fire extra rockets. If you think about Silco is a dominator, so the more times he casts, the more AP he gets. And then the last one, even Zoe best in slot is going to be a Rage Blade. So then the longer the fight goes, the more AS she gets and the more time she'll cast. This is just for the AP lines. For the AD lines, it's not as stall, it's actually more front loaded, so like any other core key or emissary doesn't really get stronger as the fight goes. So at least for these lines, this means that we are going to be rather a stall comp, and we would actually prefer a frontline anomaly. The longer our frontline survives, the more time it allows for these units to ramp up and the stronger we will be. Now, there are a couple of exceptions. Let's say you already have a very strong front line, or you're given a mana or a very good backline anomaly. So like Nothing Wasted is very good for all three of these units. On Heimerdinger, he really likes Kill Streak as well. So for example, these would be some anomalies where you could take for your backline and not necessarily have to wait for your frontline anomaly. Oh, a couple of the good ones: Alawi, Scar, Garen. These are really strong tanks that like prefer these tank size or these tank anomalies. Just some good examples of tank units that want these sort of anomalies. All right, and one of the last ones here. So we're going to talk about leveling now. Leveling too early. This is one of the common mistakes that a lot of players make. Hey, even I make it sometimes. It's just very common, right? So your leveling decisions will greatly influence how much gold you will have to roll on either your level 8 or either on your reroll. It's very important. So we'll be talking mainly about the level 8 leveling too early sort of line. I discussed in my economy guide what to do for reroll, so if you're curious about that, then definitely check that out. Okay, so level 4 on 2-1, this is a big one. So there's two main things you need to look at. Is your opener good? Is it strong? And can you win either all or a majority of your stage 2 rounds? If this is the case, level to 4, make your strong opener, and then make your money through either winning rounds or streaking. Because you will have a harder time making this money through interest because we were spending that 4 gold early to level. So this will be the way you're going to be making your money if you have a good and strong opener and you go level 4. The other way where you could still level to 4, even if you don't have an insane opener, is if you could still make 10 gold. If you can still make 10 gold, you can still level to 4, play a decent round, or play a decent board, kill some enemy units. Maybe it's the difference in some fight, which will allow you to win. So if you can still make 10 gold, even if you don't have an insane board, you can still level to 4 on 2-1. On level 8 is going to be the next main part where players sometimes level too early. So level 8 4-1. A couple of things you need to keep in mind is, can you still roll at least 35 to 45 gold? If you're going level 8 on 4-1 and you're rolling like 5 times, maybe even 10 times, you're not hitting anything. So this is a very bad idea. Make sure you have a lot of gold to roll. I'd say like 35 to 45 at least. And the other reason why you would want to do this is if you're contested by at least 2 players. If you're contested by 1 player and you guys have pretty even spots, then you should still sack 4-1, especially if your board is stable. So this means you're not just getting like 7-8-0'd and not killing any units. If your board is still stable, then definitely sack 1. You have a much better interval of leveling on level 8 to on 4-2. So you should definitely wait for this, and then you'll have much more gold to roll down and have a higher chance of hitting your units. This is going to be the leveling interval chart, so don't worry too much about 1, 2, 3. Level 4, Sometimes it will be on 2-1, depending on these conditions. If you do this, you should be level 5 by 2-5 as well, because you have already chosen to take more of the tempo route. Level 6 should almost always be on 3-2. Sometimes it will be on 3-5 if it is a very low resource galaxy plus game. So this means that you have a 0 gold Krugs. If you have 0 gold Krugs, then sometimes it's just not a good idea to level to 6 on 3-2, as you'll be too poor, like maybe like 20 gold. And then the other way around, if it's a very high resource game or you are already win streaking, I want to preserve that streak, you could go level 6 early on 3-1 as well and make that gold back from your 6 streak. So that's for level 6. Level 7, a little bit more complicated. If your board is unstable, if you're looking to reroll, or if you're just very rich, you could go early, level 7 on 3-5. If not, then you can wait for 4-1 to go level 7. Level 8 I already discussed, and then level 9 you go whenever you have a chance. This just depends on how hard you hit on level 8. This means like how little gold you had to use on level 8 stage 4 in order to stabilize before you can just set econ back up and look to go level 9. Okay, so here's an example here, same board actually as the previous one, but instead of talking about the items now, we're going to be looking at the more economic side of things. So the question is, are we leveling to 4 here on 2-1, yay or nay? So let's take a look at the board, right? We only have one upgrade. It's going to be our Zyra 2, 2 Sork, and 2 potential Sentinel, right? These other units don't do anything. We're just holding them previously on 1-4 just to see how we can make our strongest board. So this means our board is good. On average, if we like level to 4, if we slam the Shiv, as mentioned earlier in the video, probably win around 2 to 3 out of rounds, unless we natural some upgrades, get a component on our 2-4 carousel, so either like a JG, either like a guard breaker, maybe even like a TG, right? Ideally, it's one of these two to pair with the Shiv on the 2-star Zyra. However, like TG is fine as well. So that is our state of our board. Now let's say we can level to 4, we could still make 10 gold. One thing to note is after 2-1, you will only gain plus 4 gold. Usually each round, like you gain plus 5, right? However, early game, the numbers are a little bit lower, right? So it's only going to be gaining plus 4 gold instead of 5 gold after 2-1, which means it's usually pretty difficult to make 20 gold. In this case, right, let's say we could do like 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. For 18 gold, this means that let's say like next round we would be able to make 20. However, 20 does not immediately make 30 gold, right? You normally get you will now get plus 5. You also get plus 2, so this will be plus 7 gold, and then you need that plus 3 as well, either just from selling units or something else. So 20 gold does not immediately make 30 gold. The thing with 30 gold is because now it's closer to the carousel, 30 gold usually makes 40 gold because you get a free like 1 to 3 cost, and if you are making this much money, this means that this value of money is not within the units on your board, so you are most likely lose streaking. So this means you'll have priority on carousel and hopefully try to get that 3 cost unit, make 40, and then 40 usually makes 50 because you only now need a 1 gold difference of either like a streak or a unit. So this essentially means, yeah, you level to 4 here, like your board is okay, you're gonna make 10 anyway, and you're good to go. Okay, so the very last one is going to be playing only one composition, and as I mentioned at the very start, this only applies to you if you are looking to like really improve, really rank up. If you are a casual player just playing for fun, then don't worry about this as well, or don't worry about this and just have fun. Alright, but if you're trying to climb, you must learn multiple lines. So here is kind of how the lines are divided up. So you need to know both AD and AP lines. You need to know level 8 AD lines plus reroll. So currently in the meta, you need to know how to play like Adversary Flex / Twitch, and then also some like AD reroll lines like Family, Nocturne, Tristana. These are rather like artifact checks. However, it's still important to know AD reroll lines. And then vice versa, on the AP side, you need to know the level 8 AP lines, so like the Rebels, Heimerdinger, Silco, and then also the AP reroll lines, so Lux if you have Lone Hero, Renata if you have the spot for her, and then Kog'Maw is also going to be an artifact check as well. So these are just like divided up: AD, AP, level 8, and reroll. Make sure that you really take a look at your stage 1 item drops, your early game unit holds, and your 2-1 augments to influence you and kind of tailor your game into one of these. This is only applicable actually in more balanced metas where there are a lot of meta compositions and different types of meta compositions. So as you see here, like we have a good amount of compositions that we can play on the current patch, so this is why this is applicable. However, if you remember like the Syndra patch of the start of last set, this is the only thing that matters then is like this. So in a balanced game, everything is going to be applicable. You must know everything. But when there are patches with only like one super OP composition, most of the time you will be defaulting that, unfortunately. All right, and that's everything for today. So I'll go a quick recap of the 5 main things that I talked about today. Itemization, playing around the 3 components. Are you happy slamming 2 of the components? Are you playing around the 3rd component? And just what is best for your board. Choosing the wrong line. What items do you have? What units do you have? What augments do you have? Are you contested? Overruling on Anomaly, just trying to take a decent one within the first 12 choices, as your 13th one can now start repeating and you'll just be kind of going around and around just losing gold. Leveling too early, sometimes you don't always have to level to 4 on 2-1. You don't have to level to 8 on 4-1. There are a couple of conditions for this. And then also playing only one composition. If you're just always like defaulting into one comp, or you think that it's like you think it's super okay or super broken, even though it's just like good in some spots, that'll definitely hurt your climb and just yourself as a player. So that's been everything for today. Thanks so much for watching. A little bit of a longer video today, but I hope you were able to learn something from this. Make sure you join my Discord and you comment if you have any questions. The link will be in the description and also the pinned comments. So have a great day. I will see you next time and best of luck in your games. Take care.